I welcome you into a conversation about Neptune, Saturn dancing across the precessional cycle, across the astrological ages, and in connection to the stars, informing the ages and the times we are living in right now. Today, I'm going to be joined by a wonderful, passionate astrologer, researcher who I've met in my Patreon community not so long ago. And she has taken time to explore and calculate the dance between Saturn and Neptune across large spans of time, guided by curiosity, seeking information about which star was in precise position in connection to the Earth's axis. And it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce this wonderful being, Kat Collette. Welcome to my community. I can't wait to learn more about your story. What is guiding this inner curiosity and passion to understanding the greater cosmic cycles in connection to your own evolution and our collective evolution, and whatever else has become transparent in your recent research. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you so much for the invitation here. I feel very honored and grateful to have an opportunity to tell you about this. And I'm really excited to get your perspective on this. This all came about initially through my focus on the world axis. I've always been fascinated with the big picture, always been focused on the sky. In fact, I worked in aviation for 37 years and I'm obsessed with birds, and I've always been interested in astrology. As a child, though, I was more interested in the mathematics and the geometry and actually drawing the chart by hand, which I still really like to do. And I've always been interested in patterns and pattern seeking, and I work with sound as a sound therapist as well. But my interest in this particular conjunction stems from my focus on the world axis and its significance in astrology in general, its significance in my own chart, because I have a lot going on the world axis, and its significance to the Earth itself and the Earth's precession through the equinoxes. And these two points on the horizontal axis of the Earth, 0 degrees of Aries and Libra, which I see as kind of like two nodes that are formed where the Earth's equatorial plane, which like the Earth spins on its axis, it's tilted. And so the equatorial plane, if you imagine the Earth had rings like Saturn and the rings went out from the equator, that would be the equatorial plane. And where this plane of the equator intersects with the plane of the ecliptic, which is kind of horizontal, like the path to the sun. So it forms these two nodes, like these 2 points, that these are the points that process through the precession, the cycle through all the different astrological zodiac signs. And so I became really focused on, I work with the equinoxes using these 2 points, but the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, I became really focused on this when I felt the impact right away of Neptune's ingress into Aries last spring, followed by Saturn. And this occurred exactly opposite my Jupiter-Uranus MC conjunction at 0 degrees of Libra. So it lit all of that up, and it felt like I suddenly saw the potential for the collective. And maybe that's tied in with it being on the world axis. But that was when I decided that I wanted to find all the other times that Saturn and Neptune came together at 0 degrees of Aries. I wanted to know when it happened before, because I like to work with these particular conjunctions as frequency activations.
Beautiful. You've prepared a presentation and few slides for us as well. Let me know when you're ready to share them. And I'll just, as a side note, say that the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries is at my natal sun. So I also feel that very strongly. And Pluto is on my MC. So I'm also very almost obsessed about thinking about the potential for the collective and what the energies, what the celestial messengers are communicating, what is the highest potential that we can receive through these activations. I'm just so glad that you're doing this deep research and feeling called to share it with us.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why I'm interested in it myself, for all the same reasons. And so when I talk about 0 degrees of Aries, I'm not talking about the whole degree, even though I know that's where the conjunction is going to be happening at 0 degrees 45 of Aries. And so it's not to diminish that at all. But what I'm talking about right now is that sliver between Pisces and Aries, which kind of corresponds to the ascendant in our chart, like that little sliver between the 12th house and the first house. And so for me, this is it's the point where one cycle ends and a new one begins, but it's the same point. And so for me, it contains
I call it the
the whole,
alpha omega
yeah,
point.
it contains everything.
Mm.
And so for me, it contains all that is and all that was and all that ever will be. And so if we think of an incarnation as a cycle of remembrance, the way that I see like the end of Pisces, if you say like 30 degrees of Pisces, if you think of that as the moment that we become aware of the totality of all that we are as source and all that we've ever been, but all that we were while we were in human form. So this is what we become aware of, I feel like at the end of the incarnation, like when we remember all that we are. But it's the same point that we have to forget it all to start a new cycle, and where we have to believe that we're separate and believe that we're lacking and that we're limited. And when we separate from our mother when we're born, we shift from that feeling of oneness with all that we are. Like we feel at one with the universe that we know inside the womb, and all our needs are met. Like we don't experience lack or separation or limitation. Like we don't know what it's like to feel hungry or alone, or we're carried and we're held. And so we have to believe the simulation that we're projecting out, otherwise we can't exist at 3D level. And so the question I've asked myself about this point is, what if we don't merge or dissolve into oneness, which is, we experienced this with Neptune, the way that it plays out at the third dimensional level. But what if we don't actually dissolve? What if we become aware that the external world was literally an extension of our being this whole time, and we were never separate from it? And so what I feel this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is, it's an invitation to hold the dual awareness, like having one foot in Pisces and one foot in Aries. And so this slow dance over the sliver of the 0 point, with Saturn and Neptune doing this slow dance back and forth, I feel like that's that's where we're all going. It's an invitation to this new level of, it's like a super consciousness, but with this new level of sovereignty, where we can see that the external world is literally an extension of our being, but we're harnessing the power of the illusion of separation that we're experiencing as our soul in human form. And we have this awareness that that the external world is literally an extension of our being. And in fact, it's our feedback system showing us where we've forgotten who we are all the time. And the people that we attract into our life that trigger us, they are our biggest allies because they're directing us internally to get reacquainted with that power. And so for me, Saturn, just Saturn on the 0 point, he's like it's like the quantum builder. It's like about taking this radical responsibility for the reality that we're creating from the inside. And this is like a radical inner authority where we know that control is an illusion, and where we know that separation is an illusion, but we can harness it to create, because these are the frequencies that we get to alchemize. When we feel them fully, we're not trying to escape them, like, which is what we tend to do at the 3D level. We try to escape the reality that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, the Neptune Pisces escapism and the formlessness, where it says Saturn form and the sovereignty and the taking responsibility. Please keep going.
Yes. And so I feel like we get to experience this adventure as our soul. And when we take the astrology, which is what I like to do, I like to take the astrology outside of time and physicality into the quantum space and actually work with the frequencies that are at play. And so, I have my own whole thing that I'm doing with this information that I'm going to talk about, but this is what I'm sharing. It's just one perspective. It's just the way that I'm working with it. So I just want to share the information and know what it means to you, and what it means for us as a collective and what we could do with this, because that we can maybe even look at the precession cycle in a different way, because we're looking at the actual astrology that's forming the sacred geometry of it. And so, and it's not just Saturn and Neptune that are part of it. And you've talked about this before, like all the planets are all, I've looked at the cycles with Neptune and Pluto at the 0 point, and there's all sorts of really incredible patterns that I could talk about, but I'm just gonna focus on one of them
Beautiful. Before
here.
we go there, there's a really powerful nuance that I'm hearing you talking about, and that is shifting our collective astrologers' perspective from planets informing and forming how we experience our reality versus shifting that to seeing them as an extension of our greater or infinite being. And by better understanding them, can we better inform and form our own experience of reality, which the connecting to that 0 point plays a really important role, right? That Alpha Omega. Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I see the planets in the sky. I mean, obviously they are these huge, colossal, wondrous, magical beings. And they, the planets in the sky, I still, they still impact us obviously at the physical level, but I see them as an extension of the holographic universe that my consciousness is projecting out from my 0 point of creation, which for me is the very center of my chart, where my horizontal and vertical axis intersect. Like that's where I was born, is where I came into this life. But I see it that the holographic universe that I'm projecting out also kind of converges back into one in that point. And so that's where all the frequencies are. So for me as an astrologer, that's like my primary reality, where I connect with everything. And I understand astrology through like the way that I learned it kind of backwards to everybody else, through the language of frequency. And astrology is the language of frequency and sacred geometry. And so these frequencies are very much alive within us. And so when we go into our internal universe and connect with all of these planets and the fixed stars and the black holes and everything that's within us in our internal universe, which is encoded specifically to us, like we each have our own universe that we're projecting out holographically and experiencing. And so every frequency is filled with untapped potential. And so that's what makes this so huge for me. So this particular conjunction feels very, very powerful for me.
Beautiful.
And,
Let's dive
yeah.
into the presentation slides. And just before, I just want to share, I'm smiling. My heart and soul is singing and celebrating and witnessing yet another beautiful soul experiencing the cosmos from inside out and seeing this powerful shift in the astrologers community is incredible. And I'm just so blessed that there's so many that keep being magnetized into my reality. And the small me connects with just such a small fractal of individuals who have this expanded, powerful, beautiful perspective, being informed from inside out rather than from outside in. And I really believe it's happening worldwide. There are so many others that we are not yet connecting with, but nevertheless, as the planet is awakening, what you're demonstrating here is such a beautiful example of the awakening of consciousness and the profound wisdom that is accessible to us from inside out. So just thank you so much for being you, being here.
Gosh, thank you so much, Julia. And likewise, I feel like I wonder what I would be capable of if I had your level of wisdom and experience and your big picture, super galactic, conscious, super conscious perspective on all of this, and your very grounded alignment and your ability to bridge this to the 3D and apply this to life in the physical world, which is something that I'm working on.
Thank you for that beautiful recognition. I really, what you see in me, I see in you. So it's just that you're in the process of discovering it in yourself. But thank you.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much. Okay, so shall I bring this up?
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see here, Saturn and Neptune, they have what we call a conjunction. They come together at the same degree in sign every 36 years or so. Although the ones on the screen here are occurring every 37 years because depending on the dance with where the sun is, like quite often they meet 3 times and they go back and forth with the retrograde. And so that extends into 37 years. But generally, it's around about 36 years that they meet and they hop around the zodiac, forming a pretty cool pattern, actually. And so this is the upcoming conjunction that that will be culminating at 0 degrees 45 of Aries on February 20th.
The year 2026, for the
Oh,
record.
the year 2026,
Yeah.
yes. And so this slow dance kind of began earlier this year when Saturn and Neptune reached that 30th degree of Pisces, and then Neptune moved into Aries first, followed by Saturn, and now Saturn's gone back into Pisces, and Neptune is about to cross that sliver of the zodiac and go back into Pisces again. And the conjunction that happened in 1989 was in Capricorn, which is the one here. And the one before that in 1952 was in Libra. And there was one before that which happened in Leo. And so they form this pattern going through like round and around and around.
But in a way, in a spiraling motion, right?
Yeah.
Zodiac.
Yeah.
And how interesting that both those previous examples, 1989, 1952, were absolutely revolutionary years where a lot of changes were happening in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every single Saturn Neptune conjunction, and lots of astrologers have talked about the huge shifts that happen on a huge world scale, like huge, especially with the connection with Russia and with other countries. And there are lots of patterns actually within that could be another whole conversation.
Yeah.
My focus here is mostly on all the conjunctions that have happened around here.
On the 0 degrees of Aries, just adding it for those who are just listening, not watching.
Right. Yes, thank you. And so if we were to take these 3 conjunctions and squish them down and put them into the precession cycle, then they're all kind of squished here because each of these astrological ages is over 2,000 years. So I've kind of made the precession cycle into a chart, and this is the way that I like to work with it. And
Brilliant.
so,
Good. Thank you. That's a great slide.
yeah, thank you. And so this is where we are right here. And this is the conjunction that's upcoming. And this is the one before and the one before that. And they're all really squished up here.
Mm.
And so what I've done is I've gone back in time through the age of Pisces, through the age of Aries and Taurus. And I've gone back because when we actually look at the bigger picture of the precession cycle, and we look at the whole string of conjunctions that have happened, each and every one of them so powerful in itself. And when we go back in time chronologically through the ages, some patterns start to emerge. When we look at the sign and the degree of these conjunctions, there are some patterns that start to emerge, which means that you can start to also estimate where the 0 point conjunctions will happen. And they do actually occur. There's a few other patterns which I'm just going to mention briefly, just so that you know that there are every seven, like if this is cycle 0, the one that we're on now, the one before cycle 1, the one before that cycle 2, and if we went back all the way to here, we would get to cycle 73. We would find a conjunction at 2 degrees of Aries here. And then when we go to cycle number 105, which is here, we would find one at 29 degrees 50 of Pisces. So they're kind of scattered through. And there's some patterns that start to form with the 73 and the 105. But when we combine those two together to 178 cycles, it turns into this. So what I discovered is that every Saturn Neptune conjunction, when it gets to cycle number 178, which just happens to correspond with pretty much 3 ages, the whole thing starts to repeat. So all of these conjunctions that have happened throughout all of these 3 ages repeat when they get to here, and they go through the next 3 ages, going backwards in time, except the whole thing shifts a little bit. Like this is 0 degrees 45 of Aries. This one is 0 degrees and 1 minute of Aries. And you see the Capricorn one is 11 degrees 54 of Capricorn. The next one is 12 degrees of Capricorn. So the whole thing shifts, but it moves a degree. So does that make sense?
Yes, it beautifully demonstrates the spiraling motion through the evolution of time of the archetypes. Always just slight shift, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what I love about this is that every single Saturn-Neptune conjunction squares itself and opposes itself in the precession cycle. And this repeats consistently over 3 ages, or it is actually specifically, so 6,386 years is how long it takes to get to 100 through 178 conjunctions. And as I mentioned before, these are not the only ones. There are some other ones that are scattered, and some of them also involve a slow dance going back and forth over the 0 point. But these bigger cycles I want to focus on today because I want to bring in the fixed stars that are at play. But because it's not exactly 3 ages and it fits just snugly inside a square, the whole precession cycle itself has its own, it kind of precesses itself like a spiral. And the Saturn Neptune conjunctions also shift, and they shift in degree and placement. So it's never exactly the same. And the fixed stars that are involved are also different. And so this will make much more sense when we get to the other slides.
Thank
But
you. I follow. It's brilliant. What I find quite intriguing is that if we get to that 6,380, was it three years?
686.
If we double that, we get the entire in around 12,000 year uh, cycle of forgetting versus 12,000 year cycle of remembering. And what a beautiful synchronicity of having the Saturn Neptune at zero Aries at this very time when a gentleman who is also quite fascinated by the ages, Bibu Dev Misra, who wrote an amazingly detailed book, Yuga Shift, where he talks about the 12,000 year cycle of forgetting versus remembering, and how there is always a reset astrologically, astronomically. Planets get to the alpha omega point or the reset point, which 0 degrees of Aries seems to be. So this is just fascinating validation of that.
Yeah, it feels like, especially when what's also really interesting is that opposite to 0 degrees of Aries is 0 degrees of Libra happens exactly halfway. And in fact, I have a slide showing that this is where the conjunctions, Saturn and Neptune were conjunct here at Aries. They were also conjunct at 0 Libra in between. So it divides the precession cycle into 8. And it feels almost like everything is designed to go out of balance so that it can come back into balance, like the forgetting and the remembering and these up and down cycles. And again, these are not the only 0 point conjunctions, but they all, each one forms this 8-sided kind of octagon shape through the precession cycle and forms different T-squares throughout all of it. And then it's not just Aries and Libra, it's like all of them, like 11 degrees 54 of Capricorn has 11 degrees of Cancer in between. And so it's literally all of them, which
Beautiful pattern. Yeah.
mind-blowing. And these, these are just the squares and the semi-squares that are involved, which I work with the semi-squares quite a lot, and a lot of the minor aspects I actually think are very, very powerful.
Very telling for sure.
Very telling. And so the ones that we're going to focus on today, there's so many that we could talk about and so many of the other smaller cycles, but what I want to talk about with you today and get your input on is these 3, because they are this particular T-square, you could call it, in the precession cycle, is relevant to us because of this one that we are experiencing. We're kind of in the middle of it now, like with the slow dance happening back and forth over the sliver. And we're on the dawn of the age of Aquarius, right at the end of age of Pisces. And these other conjunctions were on the dawn of the other fixed signs ages as well. And so these are the ones that I would like to talk about. And I'm going to just show you the fixed stars that are at play. And I'm going to just show you quickly which how they kind of rotate, and then we'll come back to this one and talk about this one if this is okay. So
Yes.
this is the conjunction that's coming up, which is from you can speak more about this, conjunct with Sheat, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Sheat, and opposite the Supergalactic Center, and squared by Betelgeuse, which I know I'm pronouncing it different to you, Betelgeuse and Polaris, and the Galactic Center. And the one in the previous conjunction 3 ages ago involved the same exact fixed stars and black holes, but was like this. And then the one before that, it's the same ones involved again. And
Fascinating.
so I would love
Mm.
to kind of turn it over to you, really, so that you could maybe tell us about, I know that Sheat, part of the is part of the Pegasus
Yeah.
constellation. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom attached, and disasters and catastrophes, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can talk about the other hierarchies.
Higher octave of it, yeah.
So I'd love to know, first of all, like, does all of this does this make sense? And just, yeah,
Absolutely. It
just let you.
offers a deeper understanding of the greater cycles, giving us a much bigger picture. And what a beautiful blessing to help us better understand the entire cycle as we start to remember who we really are, where we came from, where we are heading, and how the celestial bodies are supporting our movement through time and space continuum. What I can offer in terms of a perspective on how the fixed stars and supercosmic points may be playing their role in this beautiful celestial dance between the inner and outer cosmos, the macro micro, is information based on my own experience. Like you, I learned astrology from inside out and through direct experience of witnessing people's stories from their entire life's experience in their current incarnation to understanding their family dynamics, to exploring their past lives, to exploring their ancestral lives, and interstellar lives through regression hypnosis sessions that I was facilitating for over 7 years for anyone who is maybe visiting this video for the first time on my channel. So when I learned about how stars in our natal chart are manifesting or informing our life experience, not just in this incarnation, but also in previous lifetimes, it was, as I said, through direct experience. Later, after I published my online courses on the discoveries that of patterns about fixed stars and supercosmic points, I was informed about this large body of astrologers and some incredible books on the fixed stars from the ancient astrologers. And the doom and gloom language just really did not register or resonate with the experience that I had in witnessing the frequency of star inside a soul record and in a expression of it in our human form. So for me personally, in connection to Alpha Pegasi, Scheat or Sheat, a star at 29 degrees of 44 Pisces in year 2026, having it also conjunct my natal sun at 0 degrees of 05 Aries. And witnessing it also in many people that I attracted into my life experience, the mythology of the gift of gods that Pegasus represented coming in at the very last minute as a solution that saved the day in moments where everyone was expecting the worst of the worst, the doom and gloom, the death of a beauty that by a monster, by a sea monster, and everyone was fearing this awful, dark, heavy, huge energy that they didn't feel they can conquer. Yet there was this hero who had courage and faith. He carried that frequency of courage and faith that is very important in order to attract or draw the favor of divine magic, divine solution, divine grace that can appear at the very last minute, but that consciousness of being open to face the darkness, to face the monster, to not let that frequency of doom and gloom and fear to take over the self, the mind, the spirit. So how I experience the Pegasian frequency is being able to birth into reality last minute solutions. That it has been a theme in my throughout my entire life, and I've witnessed it with others, and having the absolute faith in possibility of rapid shift, rapid change, quantum shift that few moments prior to that sudden resolution, we wouldn't even be able to think about it or comprehend it. I mean, who would have thought that a horse can have wings and can come down of the sky to save the day? You know, so it's this type of energy that I also feel very potent in our collective at this time, since Saturn Neptune are dancing back and forth since during 2025 and into 2026. I am deeply aware of many, I call them white boots on the ground, who have been prepared their entire life for being in a position where they can birth divine solutions at the right time, in the right moment. Just one example that quickly comes in to be shared is a gentleman in a bank in Austria in a very high position, very spiritual man, beautiful soul, kind, big heart. And he was wondering, what is he doing there? Like, shouldn't he do something else? Things that he's passionate about in terms of spirituality and QHHD, but in his regression hypnosis session, his own higher self said, "Nope, stay exactly where you are. You're there for a reason. At the right time, in the right moment, you will support the shift towards solution that supports the collective. If you go, a darker soul comes in." And that will not be possible. So we have, and I've met lawyers with similar stories, teachers, people from all walks of life that are just like that. So to me, this feels like that Pegasian energetic that is sprinkled all over the globe. And with that Saturn Neptune activating those that perhaps carry the big Pegasian star in their birth chart, they will be able to anchor these divine solutions that'll come very last minute. It may, and it's almost like a test of faith for the collective. Where we are. Do we give in to fear, or we will not? I'm not even going to say it. We will give in to fear because to me, it's incomprehensible because of the makeup that I have within me with two Pegasian stars. My Mercury is also conjunct at 25 degrees of Pisces. So yes, there can be also difficulties and catastrophes and floods, and in connection especially with Neptune in Pisces, that may occur, perhaps, surely for reasons. One thing that I learned through astrology and studying it over time is that there is order in the seeming chaos. So does that resonate in terms of how you perceive this energetic that is very potent this year?
Oh, yeah, so much. Everything that you just shared really resonates so deeply. I also have this fixed star Sheat is conjunct my IC in my chart, and your Mercury at 25 degrees of Pisces is conjunct my North Node
Mm.
in Pisces as well. So I also share this this connection with Pegasus, and my North Node is right on the saddle of Pegasus, like the Markab star. And I feel like what you're talking about, this courage and this faith in divine grace is really, it's really a trust in ourself as source to, trust in that we are there for a reason, like you were saying about this gentleman, and that everything that's showing up is showing up for a reason. And it's an opportunity to shift from the doom and gloom, like this is happening to me from my external world, to recognizing it's like becoming the eye of your own hurricane and seeing it all kind of going around you, but not being buffeted by it, like by trusting that if I'm focusing on the worst case scenario here, there's an infinite number of potentials that could play out. Like, Pegasus could come in and, we could receive this divine grace. But how about focusing also on the best case scenario and trusting, like you have where you've experienced that it always works out. It always works out. Something like this last minute solution always comes in. And so you learn to count on that. You know that you don't know how it's going to show up. You don't know, you can't control exactly, how and when it shows up, but you just have this unwavering trust that in the universe that I'm creating, everything always works out. It always works out, and if it goes sideways, I'll know what to do. I'll know what to do next. And even if I face the monster, if I'm unwavering in my trusting myself, I'll know what to do even in that, in the face of that. So,
I'm so happy to hear you experiencing life through that lens too. And it makes sense with those two stars in your chart. So it's just a beautiful validation. And yes, I think the key with the mythology here is that the divine grace doesn't come on its own, and it's not an external force necessarily that saves the day. There is a second half of that. Receivership is the human that needs to anchor and leverage and use the gift that is given, the solutions that come at that very last moment. We have to be antenna, and we have to have that frequency of what Perseus demonstrated through his courage and having faith that he can save the day, that he's the hero. So I believe we all collectively are being called to step it up this way. And that's when that magic happens, that where individually and collectively we start receiving, we will suddenly see choices and opportunities that we didn't see before once this clicks in.
absolutely.
Hope. And I believe
Yeah.
Saturn Neptune is anchoring that in for us.
Totally. And it's like these solutions that were invisible to us because we didn't resonate with them when we were operating from fear frequency. And when we become aligned and we remember who we are and we trust in the big picture of all that is and know that we're one thing and it's all divinely orchestrated. And when we trust that we know it's, nothing is wrong, like that nothing is wrong because all is one. All is well because all is one, and we're one thing, literally seeing itself from different perspectives. And
What
so,
also comes in very interesting is feeling the collective believed in the doom and gloom because they were carrying the sense of guilt for sinning, let's say for the beauty or for vanity. So they have that indoctrination of not being worthy of receiving. So they were almost accepting their faith as a result of that. So I believe for a reason this message is coming through the importance of accepting divine grace as something that we are worthy of is a big difference between what Perseus was holding in his energetics versus what the collective we're holding in the fearful collective we're holding in energetic. Can we accept that we are worthy of being connected to divine solutions?
right. And worthiness really is an illusion. We're all worthy just because we exist. Because these older ancient interpretations of the archetypes, like you've talked about how they're very left-brained, mathematician, kind of philosopher. It's very left-brained, based on what was happening during that time, like because we essentially give meaning to the planets, like they don't come with this inbuilt meaning, like they each show up in the way that we expect them to, essentially.
Great point.
And so what I would love to know is, I was going to jump to the conjunction that happened, which was square to that, but I'm feeling like guided to maybe talk about the one that happened opposite, because that is what seems to be also showing up at a collective level in terms of our soul memories, and this time at the end of age of Virgo that was moving into Leo, where this Saturn Neptune conjunction at the beginning of Aries occurred in conjunction with the Super Galactic Center. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on the Supergalactic Center and maybe how it ties in with what's moving through us right now.
What I was feeling potently last week when we had Sun briefly moving through the point, there is a nuance between when the connection comes through high degrees of Virgo versus early degrees of Libra. And I feel both these points, in a way, are activated repeatedly in our relationship to self and others, and also to our relationship to the external experience, and through Virgo, through the information or through betterment and the perfectionism that is almost like a strive for perfectionism is like epidemic or like a disease that is stealing our ability to, or our sense of peace. So with the Super Galactic Center, the shadow effect of that, and certainly in that last age, in the last Yuga cycle, or the opposing end of the precessional cycle, there was this constant drive for more. There is this insatiable desire for fulfillment of the black hole, because there is the realization of us being connected to the center of all that is, to the singularity, infinite point inside of our being. That awareness is not in the cycle of the ages when we are deep in the forgetting, or when we are heading into forgetting. So instead of knowing ourselves as connected to all that is and deeply fulfilled as that infinite chalice of love and wisdom that is ever present and ever available, when that's not there, when we're experiencing that seeming separation, that supergalactic center, and I've recognized it through individuals who would have planets natally aligned to the supergalactic center, that in their earlier years, before they mature to realizing themselves as connected and tapped into the quantum field, they're going through very powerful, intense, emotionally themes of never-ending relationships, desires for relationships to fulfill them. Yeah. And it's like these toxic connections that are very painful for both partners. And especially, so that's when it comes through Libra point. When it comes through the high degrees of Virgo, the theme for a person is the never-ending desire for learning more information or for improving external environment. And there is this inner frustration or this constant hunger for more. As I said, you can't feel the peace until something external makes things look better, appear better, but it doesn't work that way. So the resolution occurs for these individuals, and I believe this is now the collective theme, where we realize this insane game that we play with ourselves of chasing relationships, or chasing either our physical body betterment or our mind betterment in order to feel connected. And we're called to drop that illusion and realize that the only way to fulfill this black hole, the effect of it, is by realizing that we are the black hole. We are a source of infinite love, infinite wisdom, and then starting to recognize how we have the ability to say the right thing at the right time, how we can magnetize most amazing relationships into our life, because the relationship with the self, first and foremost, is healed and in harmony. So the theme now, as we are looking back at what we were not able to comprehend at that time during the cycle of forgetting, we're learning through memory of the immense pain that lasted for so long until now, when we are for the first time realizing that connection of the infinite point inside our being. Does that
Wow.
resonate?
I'm having like so many epiphanies as you're talking because I feel like you just described my experience. I have so much going on at the end of Virgo and the beginning of Libra that I feel like you just described me, and this insatiable desire for more and more information. Actually, going back to the last eclipse, the full moon eclipse that we had at 23 degrees of Virgo last spring was exactly on my south node conjunct with Pluto. I have Pluto and south node conjunct in Virgo, and so that got lit up on the last eclipse, and combined with this solar eclipse that we just had at 29 degrees of Virgo was exactly 1 minute away from my Jupiter, which is conjunct with Uranus at 0 degrees, and it was on my MC as well. And so everything that you just described, I felt all just kind of came into this point of convergence where, you know, the information that if I'm seeking information from outside of myself, or if I have an insatiable need for anything from my external world, it's because I'm animating the illusion of separation from that. Like if I believe that, because essentially I am the information that I'm seeking already. It's coming from within me. It's not out there. And the more I look for it out there, whether it's a partner or whether it's information or whatever we're seeking outside of ourselves, the external world gets louder in showing us that it's not there, by bringing us the situations to show us that to redirect us back internally, so that we can kind of use this black hole effect to go into our own. And the other thing that came up for me, especially during the summer, actually around perfectionism, because this is something I've struggled with my whole life, with perfectionism. And what I realized was it wasn't just about getting the details perfect or being perfect. It was about what I was escaping was the feeling that I would feel about myself, like the shame that would come up if, I think this is related to my fear of public speaking. It's about what if I can't access the information that I need and I make a fool of myself live in front of people. That's like one of my biggest fears. And so I've avoided public speaking my whole life. And so this need for perfectionism, there's usually a frequency that's beneath it. It's like, you know, why do you want to be perfect? What is the feeling that you're truly seeking? And so anyway, the information, what I realized I needed to connect with was the frequency of simplification. And that's like bringing all of the information into one spot, kind of like bringing it into that 0 point in the center of me, the center of my chart. And into also, like with Libra, is about harmony and balance. And one thing that I learned from Ascended Master Zachariah, which you may have seen in conversation with Pam Gregory. I'm so grateful to Pam Gregory for bringing Zach into our lives. He's trans-channeled by Janet Trelaw in Zach's portal. I highly recommend checking that out. But Zach talked about the harmony point, and he told us, this is a few years ago in one of his deep dives, that harmony is like the higher aspect of balance. Like with balance, we're constantly striving to make things right, to balance things out. But when we come into the center point, almost like the fulcrum of the scale, then it's more about, rather than striving to balance things out, it's more about being okay with what is. It's about being with what is, accepting the duality, accepting that the universe is always in a state of flux. And when we can come into that harmony point in the very center of our being, that's where we're projecting all the contrast out from anyway. That's we are the harmony point. That's where our soul, he said, Zach said, this is the vibration point, is where it's what connects the soul to the body. But coming into this point, it kind of takes the two extremes out of the equation, and it accepts them as they are, but it also stops you being buffeted around. It's like being in the eye of the black hole, and watching all the chaos going on around you, and knowing that the last minute solutions will show up, but you just have to go into that. You have to go into your own black hole, which is your own void space of creation, really.
Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that in. Yeah, it really makes me reflect about the Aries Pisces point, looking at Virgo and Libra point, and how acknowledging their shadow side, but also their highest potential, and how we are guided to learn to recognize the full spectrum of their existence, and leveraging it from that centered, grounded, anchored point in the middle of our own universe.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really curious to know also from you, like how you see, because clearly a lot of souls are remembering lives in Atlantis, and this time is opposite to us in the precession cycle with these two Saturn Neptune conjunctions close to the 0 point, opposing each other. So I'm really curious to know how that's been showing up in your work, and the souls that you've been working with, and maybe how some of these frequencies have been playing out in their experiences. And because the memories are coming up, but for me, I also feel like it's the frequencies that are encoded into these memories that are what it's really about, because that's what we all are, we're frequency first and foremost. And so we're all that is. And so we've experienced every lifetime. So if these particular lifetimes are coming in to our awareness, then it's because of the frequencies at play. So I'm curious to know also what you think about that, and how we can work with them, how we can collaborate with that.
Thank you. I've just recorded a presentation on how the asteroids linked to ancient times mythology in our natal charts are actually markers of our soul connection to these ancient times. So I've researched over 70, 80 charts in the last few months, and I've put it all together and came to a fascinating conclusion, seeing that not only the relevant asteroids in our natal chart that connect to whether it's Atlantis or Lemuria or Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, when they're in our natal charts, aligned to our natal planets, whether through conjunction or all other aspects, including minor aspects, it is during times when there is a planet in transit, direct conjunct, or an aspect, difficult aspect to these asteroids in our natal chart, that when there are these spontaneous recalls of the soul memories, whether through dream state or hypnosis, meditation, or we visit sacred sites and suddenly we have a full detailed recall of what we experienced in those ancient times. And these individuals, when the recall is there, there's always profound inner guidance and ability to heal whatever unsettling emotions were held within the soul records of the individual and the collective. There's just story after story. Everyone is being naturally, spontaneously guided to heal the trauma, to dissolve the pain, memory, keep the wisdom, see the bigger picture. Suddenly they understand the much bigger cycle, and it's happening like ripple wave effect across the globe. through individuals who had no idea about any of this stuff. But then when they now learn about the power of astrology, how many keys it holds to our soul records, they discovered that, oh my goodness, on that very day when I recalled something, the asteroid Atlantis was returning to my natal Atlantis, or, on and on. That's one side of the discovery. And the second is that there are individuals who carry markers of the entire cycle. They would have ancient Egyptian asteroids clearly pointing to them being in some type of mystery school during that era. Mesopotamia, Atlantis, Lemuria, and I also looked at the asteroid Hyperborea, which to me potentially represents the era even before Lemuria, and it seems to be either exact by the degree conjunction to natal planets of individuals who are guided to comprehend these grand cycles. So I'm just curious to hopefully soon explore your own chart, but it's quite fascinating to see that I call us code keepers, or there is a reason why why our natural curiosity is guiding us to exploring this. Our birth charts are carrying codes of the entire cycle. So we are the ones that need to see it, look at it, because it's inside us. So it's easier for us to recognize these energetics and then share it with the collective. And I believe we do it for the Earth. If we are Earth's neural network, then she is the one that is awakening from the sleep and, raising her own frequency, going to her own cycle of daytime. So she is remembering, she's waking up from her dream, and we are an expression of that, experiencing echo of it in our own minds for her. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, so much. Coming back
Yes.
to fixed stars, this is a conjunction we were just talking about that was conjunct with the Supergalactic Center. So I'm going to go back 3 ages to this powerful conjunction, which happened at 0 degrees and 1 minute of Aries. It was the third in a series of three. There were 3 conjunctions going back and forth, which was conjunct with, as you pronounce, Betelgeuse and
Mhm.
Polaris, an opposite to the Galactic Center, and being squared by Sheat and the Supergalactic Center. So I'm really curious to get your thoughts on that, because that's what these points, these fixed stars in the Galactic Center are squaring this upcoming conjunction as well. And
Yeah.
so they, it seems like they're all part of a big story. So I'm just really curious, and we can stop sharing so I can actually see your face while you're
Yes.
talking about this. But I'm really curious to get your perspective on these stars.
Yeah.
And
I think I'll start with the Galactic Center because then it'll tie in better to the Betelgeuse and Polaris. When we get to a point of self-realization, knowing that we are spirit, or the body is in the spirit, that we are spiritual beings having human physical experience, there is a point with the Galactic Center when we discover that infinity point inside our being, where we suddenly tap to the quantum field, and it's so exciting and so thrilling that, oh my goodness, I can do all this. I am incredible. And we then go on this tangent where we suddenly want to tell everyone about all the discoveries that are available to us, all the information that is available to us. In a way, we go on a trip and the square of galactic center to supergalactic center, it's the energy of the higher evolved state of the greater being that teaches us the importance of right relationship and detaching from that perfectionism ideology, right? We talked about the early degrees of Libra and the high degrees of Virgo that currently Supergalactic Center aligns with on a tropical zodiac. So eventually we realize that this preacher, I know it all, doesn't work. It's a dissonant frequency. It doesn't create harmonious resonance with other beings who may be on the same, because we are not listening to each other, we are not interrelating, we are not co-creating, we are just individual poles of burning light. So that's the square inner tension where we start realizing when we are in that preacher frequency of the galactic center discovery alignment inside our being, we express it. The feedback from external is always the friction, and we suddenly feel that inner tension of something is off. I cannot really show up fully this way. And then we start learning about relating to others, and it kind of starts with the self, where we realize we don't actually need to inform the whole world about the entirety of our comprehension. We don't need approval. We don't need to be seen as perfect. We let go of that. So then that shift creates a beautiful evolution from the galactic center point, embodiment of its highest expression, highest potential, towards super galactic center, integrated and expressed in its highest expression. So if we go back to the shadow side of the galactic center expression through human experience, before it realizes through the journey of its own silliness, I'm going to call it, or vanity, it is looking at the opposing pole of the star Betelgeuse in Orion, where the experience of polarized view, right, the Gemini archetype is very potent. And we're going between what's right, what's wrong. Am I right? Are you right? The never-ending chatter and the appeal of yet another exciting information, yet another exciting experience that the individual human, and played out on the collective as well, is endlessly entertained with. And it's so beautiful that the Polaris, that we perceive as the North Star, as the true north, as the guiding light, is right there in the astrological alignment, even though Polaris is way off the ecliptic. But it's just beautiful how it plays out into our guidance system, where the way out of this insane Gemini experience, where you can feel lost in the external experience, polarized views, subjective experiences and perspectives. The only way out is back to the center, where you follow that true north of your being, of your highest spirit, calling you towards greater alignment, greater harmony with all that is, recognizing that spherical, holographic, infinite fractal creation, acknowledging all perspectives as equally valued in the eyes of the infinite. Just beautiful expressions in the denser realities. And then it's about recognizing what is true, what is an illusion, what is important, what isn't, what is healthy, what's not. And that entire journey is so valuable in the evolutionary cycle and in the expression of creator beings that we are. So I feel we are realizing these archetypal messages in our single life experience, perhaps because we are able to look back in time, receive the codes of our own selves living in those eras, fully living the madness of those ages. Now we're able to just receive the wisdom, bring peace into all our versions that suffered through those illusions, call them back back home, really, and invite them forward in greater harmony and connectivity and co-creation now as a collective that works together towards a common goal, which is supporting this beautiful planetary being that Mother Earth is on a journey in relation to Sol, the sun, and all the other planets. Oh, just beautiful, beautiful journey.
I love this so much. I just love everything that you just said, it's just, and yes, like these past versions of ourselves that we that we have judged. You know, we might judge things externally to be right and wrong, but we've also judged ourselves for not being as conscious in our past, and welcoming all of those versions of ourself home is, you know, we're integrating more of ourself along our own timeline. And, you know, what's right for one, this is, you know, clearly playing out on the planet right now, the sense of right and wrong, but we can also see how this serves us. And, you know, if all is one, you know, if we are one thing, we have created this together as source, this extreme division, this extreme illusion of separation from ourself, from our external world. And so the more we judge any other element of source as being wrong, the more we're not allowing, you know, like if we can hold our truth and allow every other element that's experiencing source from that perspective to hold that perspective, and we can hold ours, then it's like a new, it's almost like a composite chart. It's like it creates like a whole new perspective of source is born. And so it's like we're colliding together and creating these new perspectives. But when we allow other people, other elements of source to hold that sovereign perspective, then we're kind of lighting up our own universe, because we're seeing everything in our universe as source. But when we judge other elements as non-source, then we are experiencing the illusion of separation. And that's okay. That's part of the game. We have to perpetuate the game of illusion. And so some are going to experience that more than others. And that's okay. It's not wrong either. I love what you shared about Polaris and this the sense of alignment, and, you know, being like a guiding kind of navigation towards that sense of stability, that alignment, which I feel like you embody so beautifully. Like always, you always seem so aligned. And but tying into that, there's this deeper trust in our own inner compass, and this unwavering self-trust, you know, like that if the sea monster shows up or whatever happens or whatever, that we will, and this maybe ties in a little bit with Betelgeuse and all of that, that there's like this higher expression of the divine masculine, which is like because we are one with all, and that's like our divine feminine, our connection to all that we are as source, but we each also hold an individual perspective of source, which we are experiencing from, like the way I see it, it's like from the coordinates in time and space that my soul chose to, you know, see my universe from. And so when we can allow everybody else to have theirs and know that the whole thing just kind of works, then I think that we can transcend this, like Pluto in Aquarius. It's like beautifully kind of dismantling or kind of transcending the tribal mentality that's built on compliance and fear and separation, this us and them kind of mentality, which served us for millennia. Like it's helped us to survive, and, you know, this tribal mentality, but we're becoming one. But it's like the power of the network, which is Pluto in Aquarius. It's like the Aquarian age for me. It's about powering up the network with every node in the net in its sovereignty, knowing who it is, and allowing every other node in the net to be in its power too. And then we kind of light up the whole thing. We're not doing like the olden days with strength in numbers. It's more like, I know who I am. I feel safe to disagree with, but do you want to collaborate? You know, it's kind of like moving from that defensiveness to more collaboration with those who disagree with us. And so it's kind of a long-winded answer to what you were sharing, but
not at all. Really valuable point too. One more element that comes on Betelgeuse is this amazing ability to adapt. I've noticed that massively with every individual that carries not just Betelgeuse, all Orion stars, really, some more than the others. But Betelgeuse in particular, there's just amazing adaptability and resilience because the echoes of polarized camps fighting against each other has been lived for so long for someone that has Betelgeuse anchored, that they just know that they can survive even the worst, and they have this amazing intelligence that guides them to resources out of nothing, adaptability, figuring things out, surviving. There is a great survival instinct with Betelgeuse as well that is very potent when that star is being activated.
I'm really interested in, I know there's one more slide I wanted to show you before we kind of
Please
wrap
do.
up. What I really want to do is I want to, because essentially everything, the whole precession cycle, all the precession cycles, everything is happening at once because time is an illusion. And when we come into the 0 point, we like our own 0 point, we go to that place outside of time and physicality where we are creating everything, where we get to create our own rules. And so for me, when I'm working with the precession cycle, it's almost like a visual for, especially when you bring in the fixed stars, it's like a visual of this whole kind of cuboid of the universe for me, like all, the galaxies and everything, and putting all that into an infinite spiral with the Saturn Neptune conjunctions all opposing each other and squaring each other. It looks almost like, I'm going to show you the slide. I think this is kind of cool, like this,
Amazing.
where the whole precession cycle, each loop is different, but it's all part of a whole story that's playing out. And if we go into the very center point and think of it even like as a DNA kind of helix spiral. And I know I'm speaking to the perfect person here because you're so big picture. Like I would just want to go outside of time and space, and how can we harness the power of this and bring in the fixed stars and work at a whole new level, like a whole new paradigm of astrology, really, where we operate in these higher expressions, these, like how do we bring Sheat and the Super Galactic Center and the Galactic Center and Orion, like how do we bring all of this and work with the highest potentials? Like if you could summarize it, like
Yes,
what, like would you say, like just to close this?
I hear you. Simplify, go back inside and realize that it is all a holographic infinite fractal of one and the same. So what we are experiencing internally, it's an echo of what different versions of ourselves are experiencing in other star systems and intergalactically as well. The stories that beings that have human DNA that live in other star systems are very similar yet different, but archetypally in terms of how they experience themselves in relationship to others, not just other humans, but also planetary bodies, stars. People would be surprised how similar it is because it's holographic fractal universe. So it is tempting to for us to want to comprehend it from this large, grand scale. And in a way, we are saying it from a perspective of someone who has held space for hours in a deep state of consciousness, journeying with my clients through their soul records. So I've witnessed over 7 years daily how soul evolves over extended periods of time, and how the stories in other star systems are echoes of what we are experiencing here, and then seeing in birth charts how what we experience in our current incarnation, we clearly experience in ancient times, and we clearly experience in other star systems. It's like because of this much larger cycle in our galaxy, Creator wanted to experience itself in denser realities. It's all happening in the now. And the denser universe being based on the polarized creation. So what has been experienced in terms of wars and trauma and conquering and protecting and fear, all these basic human emotions were in fact experienced a very long time ago in other star systems. And since then, we have been trying to heal the original trauma of separation and then fear of being lost and not protected. So the echoes of that have been playing out in so many different ways, in so many different forms. But it really feels like in my entire being, I feel we are called to complete that cycle of trauma transfer and evolve the entire galaxy to a higher octave where that insane amount of suffering no longer is required because we have learned the lessons. The creator knows itself in ways it only dreamed of previously. Now it's experienced. So it feels like complete. But as I said at the very beginning of this monologue, that there is a temptation of going out to understand it all. But in essence, we have to just go in and know that what we see outside is just an echo of the same patterns. Within our creation, there is just certain basic yet beautiful sacred geometry. And based on that, everything is present in our galaxy, in our creation. So there's infinitely more, but right now I believe it's about healing the entire evolutionary cycle in our own DNA, in our own bodies, so that we can bring the spirit into the physical experience to let it live here in harmony in support of Mother Earth and her desire to live in peace. I believe.
I love everything you just shared so much, and it really makes sense to me, and I can relate to a lot of what you said. I love what you said about, like when we go out there, like you and I like to go out, way out into, it's really important that we remember that it's all coming from within ourselves, and that story of creation, it's essentially about ourself, the source, splitting itself out so that it can see its own magnificence. Because when we're just in a state of beingness, there's no movement, like we're not doing anything, like we can't see ourselves, we don't know what we're creating. So we need the reflection to see who we are, and to see everything that we're creating internally. And so it's like every single frequency that we, even if we don't understand it or we feel like we're disconnected from it, it's like every frequency in the universe, every element of itself, it's all encoded to bring every other element back to the truth of itself as source, because we're all one thing. And so I feel like the main message that I feel like to combine all of this, especially with the Saturn and Neptune conjunction and this new level of sovereignty and radical responsibility and authority over our own universe, that it's like it's not like taking ownership as in like the third dimensional approach where you're like owning up to something. There's no judgment or morals or anything attached. I mean, like claiming ownership of the universe that we're creating, because I feel like we have an opportunity, all of us here, it's about being the I am and the I am it all simultaneously, and experiencing the illusion and the oneness. And it's like being human and source simultaneously, and like living life as our soul, like experiencing the adventure of the illusion rather than, trying to escape it. And all these beautiful pieces that you've talked about that we can bring in from these fixed stars and infuse them into this conjunction. It could be a huge activation, especially when we blend our own sacred geometry with it, and the chart, and use it as a transit or a composite or whatever way that we work with it. Or just feeling into our 0 point. If we're not astrologers, you don't have to know any of this stuff. You just need to go into the center of yourself, wherever that feels real for you, what comes alive for you when you think about that.
Beautiful.
So
Yes. I just want
so
to add,
much more I can say.
yeah, I just want to add one more note that came through as you were speaking about coming back into the center. If we are uncomfortable with the fact that there is still a huge amount of turmoil occurring in this world, in this reality, there's still a huge amount of cleanup that needs to be done. If that makes us uncomfortable, I personally, whenever I have that type of external trigger of like, why can't they sort it all out already? Like, come on.
Yeah.
I would then, as always, as something that you pointed at the very beginning, how you operate too, and it's beautiful to see. Can I use that as a sign of something internal? Is there anywhere else inside me where I can bring more peace into? Or if I feel already totally at peace in my own presence, in my own knowing, can I then just wish or include their suffering in my peace, or like wish peace upon them, wish healing upon them, sending prayers for healing and peace where it is needed from your anchor of peace and love is crucial, I believe, for this time. And I
Absolutely.
believe this is really why we were called here, as I've witnessed so many times, where Earth called in more light, more love through soul fractals to come in, to incarnate, to hold that frequency so that the insanity can heal faster or on time. Yeah.
Mhm. Love that. Thank you so much. And the more just to add to that, I feel that when we can see other people in their power as source and know that despite how things look on the surface, they may look like they need to be saved by us, but their soul has their back. Like it might make no sense as to why, this particular soul has chosen to experience this, or, we might want to, but the more we can have trust in the big picture and trust in them as a divine being of source that has their own back, the more we're actually helping them. And we can send that frequency of compassion, of course, and camaraderie and all of that. And we can ask for them to be wrapped in light, or we can, there's lots of things that we can do to help. But seeing them in their power is can be hard when we see someone who looks broken and they're breaking down. But their soul knows what they're doing. Like there's a version of them that knows what they're doing, and they're part of it all. Like and if we can just look at what they are bringing to life within us and adjust ourselves internally, and anchor more deeply into that self-trust in ourselves as well, I feel like they pick that up energetically, and it's almost like a telepathic way of showing them how to do the same thing. It's like they can find it within them. And if we can't find it, we can ask our system to show us. Like, where does peace live? Where does trust live? Where does safety live in my body right now? Because I can't find it out here. Where is it? And we have nowhere else to turn but ourselves in some situations to do that. And so it's an opportunity always for our soul to evolve. And yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kat. For everyone that would love to connect with you, whether for sharing notes or for advice, for guidance, can you share with us what do you offer? How can we reach you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I work as an astrologer, but as you probably figured out, I work with it quite differently. I understand it through the language of frequency. And so essentially what I do with people is I help them to understand their language of frequency and understand the themes that their soul chose to experience in this incarnation, like the themes of remembrance, which are, of course, threaded with illusion of separation. And so I help people to decode their reality and see how the astrology is mapping out what they are already creating internally, so that they can understand how their channel is speaking to them through their experiences, through their thoughts and their emotions and their physical sensations and their interactions with other people, and what's showing up in their life and how that's entangled with their past. And if they want to do a deep dive kind of soul journey with me, then we go into the whole past life journey and all the frequencies that they brought in from the past life and how they're playing out. But essentially, I want to help people with or without the astrology to shift from feeling like a victim to whatever's playing out in the cosmos or on the ground, and more to being a conscious creator of their own reality. So it's like kind of hacking into the adventure that their soul is already having and has already been having, and experiencing it all as their soul, and also looking at the chart to see the untapped infinite potential frequencies that are encoded into there. So that's what I do. I do that one-on-one, and I'm also creating some free stuff that I'm going to be, I have a YouTube channel. I just changed the name of it to, it's my name, Kat Collette. Sometimes I use Katrina Collette as well, but it's Kat Collette Out of Bounds Astrology, which is the name of my company, which is very fitting, I think, for what I do. And I also have a Substack, where I just started it, so I have a couple of things in there, but I want to start posting some streams of consciousness, astrology and non-astrology related. I can be reached by email at astrocat6, that's cat with a K, astrocat6@gmail.com. And I can also be reached through my YouTube and my Substack, which is a little bit sparse at the moment. I don't have a website yet either. I'm not very technological or even business minded, but it's all coming. So please reach out to me, especially if you'd like to be put on the list for some of my offerings that are coming up that are going to be free, as well as some group related things where we dive into some of this. But yeah, so that's what I do, and I will share those links with you.
Thank you. I'll include them in the video description. I celebrate you coming out of your shell and coming out into the world with all your brilliant light, with your beautiful, loving heart. What an honor, what a pleasure, what a gift for me to witness the research and the visuals that you put together. I really hope that the viewers will gain a deeper sense of order in the seeming chaos, and knowing that guidance and support is available to us during this transformational times. What a time to be alive. Much love to you all.
Extraordinary time to be alive. Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for your beautiful insights and wisdom. I feel like I still have so many questions for you, and but you've given me a lot of real nuggets here to add to my research, and I look forward to seeing what happens next.
Until next time, much love to you all.
Thank you.